In this lesson, we'll use an expandable list adapter. As we discussed in the previous lesson, expandable list adapters are used in lists that contain sublists. So when the user clicks on an item in the main list, it expands to show a list of sub-items. We created the expandable list adapter in the last lesson, so take a look at that if you haven't already. In this lesson, we'll use the adapter to populate our list items. So we'll only be working with our first activity form. We'll look at the activity's main resource first, and all that it has is an expandable list view, and those are all default properties. And I've also added a text view above the list view, and we're just going to use that to track selections. The work is really done in the activity. We create a variable for our expandable list view, and then we're going to populate the departments. We've got constant strings for our name and status, and if you remember, those were the detailed items, the employee items. And there were 2 fields for each employee, and then we're going to have a department name. So the main list just has a single text view, and then the employee list has the name and the status, so it has 2 text views. This is the raw dummy data we're going to use. We just create a string array of departments, and then we create a list of employee objects with their names and their statuses. So now we'll create the objects that we need to pass into the expandable list adapter. The first is a Java list of dictionary items for the group data, and the second is a list of dictionary items of the child data. So, for every one of the departments that we created in the string array, we're going to create ourselves a Java dictionary, and we're going to populate that, and we're going to put that into the group data list, and then we're going to populate the dictionary with our department name constant for the key and the actual department name string. Then, within the department, we're going to loop through the employee list, and we'll create a list of dictionaries for the employees, and for each one of the employees we'll create a new dictionary, and we'll add that into our list. Then we'll add the items into the dictionary for name and status, and finally we'll put that list into the child data list. So those are some pretty complex list objects with multiple levels to them. If you remember, our expandable list adapter has a somewhat complex constructor as well. So we're going to create our employee list adapter, we're going to pass in this activity for the context, and we're going to pass in the group data. Then we're going to pass in the layout resource for the group, and in this case we're just going to use the standard resource for an expandable list item. And if you remember from the simple list item that we had some choices, and there was a list item 1 which just had a single text view, and a list item 2 and a checked list and some other variations. In this case we're just going to have a single text view is what we're looking for, and that's what we'll use for our simple expandable list item. Then we'll pass in the string of keys, which is just a single department name, and where to put that key within the simple expandable list item 1 resource. And we're just going to be populating the text1 text view. Then we'll do the same with the child data. We don't have a standard resource for the child data like we do for the group, so we just put in a 0 for it. We null out the from string, and we just pass in an empty to string. If you remember from the adapter, this stuff was built up within an override. And finally, we pass in the list view. Then we set the list view's adapter to the adapter that we just created. The onClick, thankfully, is much simpler. So in this case, we're just looking at the child click because we just want to see when a child is selected as opposed to when its parent is expanded. And we had that text view we're just going to use to track the positions. And we're just going to write the text saying that the position is the group position and the child position, both of which come along on the child click event arguments. So now we'll see that in action again. And here's our list. And these are the group names or department names. And when I expand it, we see the employees, their name, and status. And when I select it, you can see I get the group index of 3 and the employee position of 2. If I go into accounting and select the first one, I end up with a different index. So that's how to build an expandable list. As you can see, there's a fair amount of moving parts to that.